Despite these challenges over the last 4 years, my optimism about Nigeria's future is unshakable, and Nigeria's role in the world as an emerging economic force is without doubt. Over the next 4 years, we are committed to assembling a strong team of Nigerians and allies to implement our transformative plans and proposals. This government will not tolerate actions by any individual or groups of individuals who seek to attack our way of life, or those who seek to corruptly enrich themselves at the expense of the rest of us. We will crack down on those who incite ordinary, innocent people to violence and unrest. We will ensure that such actions are met with a strong arm of the law. Nation building takes time, but we must take solace in the knowledge that this country, our country, has everything we require to make Nigeria prosper. Our focus will not be to help the privileged few, but to ensure that Nigeria works for Nigerians of all persuasions. That is a more just arrangement.
So there you have the president talking about ensuring that Nigeria works for Nigerians, which is a more just arrangement. So how many days? 21 days or thereabouts without a cabinet awaiting the big ministerial list, we can say now. But speaking about the power sector, I mean, yesterday we looked at two key institutions who have huge roles to play concerning the emergence of those ministers, the State Service, State Security Service, and that of the National Assembly. So speaking about the power sector, you know, power, works, and housing, that's how it is constituted at the moment. But you know that those who wonder, is it going to continue in that breath? Or are you going to remove the Ministry of Housing and have whichever minister comes in to continue with power, works? Or is the former minister going to be returned to that ministry to continue whatever work that they're doing in that area? If you have a new minister in that area, is it going to jeopardize what has been done in that particular area? And what has changed in the power sector? So these are some of the considerations that will be coming. Lots of people will be looking to see who heads that particular position. So it should be interesting.
I remember very clearly when Senator Olujimi from Ekiti State, when she, on the floor of the Senate, was very categorical about the importance of breaking down that ministry, saying that it's perhaps too large for the former minister, Babatunde Raji Fashola, to handle alone. But I'm just looking at the dynamics that will play out. Will the president retain as it is, or will he have to change that, considering that it's like, a lot of people look at it as a super minister, you know, super ministry, super minister, because it's like 3 in 1. And looking at who best fits that shoe now. Will it be Fashola again? Will it be someone else from this region? You know, the way politics is and how the APC plays it. But there are serious challenges. The president wants to get out at least 100 million people out of poverty in the next 4 years. That is huge. Because power will play...
In the next 10 years.
In the next 10 years, I'm sorry. Power will play a very critical role here, because if you have power, you would have addressed, you would have stimulated at least the middle class, and you've stimulated small businesses, and you just set the clock on auto drive, you know, and you begin to see all of this fall into place. So I believe that if we don't address the issue of security, one, if we don't address the issue of power supply in this country, then we just might be playing the ostrich.
I think we should identify one very critical factor, and I want to believe that the president and whoever is on the corridor waiting to get into any of the ministers' offices is also looking at, is that the power sector alone is humongous. I mean, in the course of our work, we've heard all kinds of units, departments, agencies, interest groups, bulk purchasing, regulatory body.
Don't forget the consumers.
GENCOs,
it's huge.
Trancos, and each one of those items is, and then we're not talking about the consumers themselves. Now, we've been talking about the issue of metering for how long? We've been talking about and then, of course, the conversation we're going to be having now is also going to be looking at, okay, was this whole privatization thing the way it was supposed to be in the first place, or is it going the right way? So the Ministry of Power is a very, very, on its own, it's a lot of work. And if, you know, as Gimba said, the position of the president about getting as many people out of poverty as possible is anything to go by, then I think it is something that is very, very important for government to take a very good look at. It'll be better, in my opinion, if we should just give it one of them.
People were asking at some point, where is Bat Naji?
Well, that's a big question. Let's head to Abuja and see what Markwe's got next. Markwe.
Who is close to you.
Well, we're talking about electricity indeed, as you gentlemen have highlighted there. And I have with me in the studio here the chairman, beg your pardon, of the National Electricity Regulatory Commission. Nigerian. Why am I getting Nigerian and national mixed up this morning? It's the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Mr. James Momo, you're welcome to Sunrise City this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're very honored to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, but I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will definitely start sending their comments in. There's been that controversy which is out there in recent times about tariffs and the state of our discos and what needs to be done. Because some people are saying, what we have right now, is it really capable of delivering the electricity that we wish to deliver to Nigerians? Let me get that from you first. Okay.
Again, good morning all. We have a market of electricity production, transmission, as well as distribution in Nigeria. That is based on a market that says customer will pay for electricity that they use, and it will be paid for the generating capacity that is available through a facility that is called NBET to make sure there is balance between energy use and payment done through the GENCOs. Of course, at the moment, we have some challenges. There are industrial challenges in terms of DISCO not being able to pay appropriate pricing for the electricity to the GENCOs through NBET. So we have a liquidity issue. Solvency in the terms of there's a market shortfall. There's also a tariff shortfall. Excuses have been given, correctly so, in terms of DISCO not being able to charge appropriate tariff, which is understood. And why is it important? Because first of all, there are so many losses in the system, and losses such as technical. We have a lot of losses due to the weak transmission lines, weak transformers, weak substations that are not maintained. So they are not efficient. Also, there are losses due to collection. DISCOs are not able to collect money from the customers for energy they sell. As well as there are also, in the process of there are thefts. There are issue of theft in the system. People are not paying for energy they have used. People are stealing power. So all of these are accumulated to what we call aggregate technical, commercial, collection losses. So when we have these losses, there's an imbalance. So first, there's an imbalance in the market, for which the DISCOs are not able to collect appropriate money for the energy they sell. So two, there is also imbalance in terms of interface challenges between the DISCOs and the transmission providers, in the sense that energy that is actually being provided to the DISCOs are not being properly taken, or they call what is called managing the power rather than utilizing this. The challenges in that, between that interface, we have discovered. We at NERC are working on that in an attempt to know that the energy that is stranded at the interface between the DISCOs and transmission service provider can be managed, can be overcome going forward. Of course, there are also other challenges in terms of what I would call necessary parameters that will have allow efficient market, such as the equivalent, what I would call parameter in terms of money borrowed to get into this business. The Naira equivalent has changed over time, all right? so which also has caused a lot of problem for the discos. But by and large, we have stepped in as regulators, trying to ask ourselves big questions. What can we do to minimize the losses?
We'll take a break at this moment now, and we'll be, I'm sure he already has answers as to how we can minimize the losses and ensure that the system is efficient. And answers will come after this break. Please stay with us. We have with us in the studio this morning Professor James Momo, who is the chairman at the NERC, that's the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. And we're talking about how to better the electricity sector, why it is not working as it ought to. And he was just talking about what it is that they're doing to ensure that they minimize the losses.
Yes, minimize losses.
And make it run efficiently. I'm going to quickly bring this to the forefront so you can address it. Now, only recently, Dr. Sam Amadi, who is the former chairman of NERC, and a certain Commissioner AO have been having a face-off on Twitter. And that's where I got to see this. And he says here, chief falsehood, that the removal of the collection losses caused the lingering of failure in the power sector, or the lingering of failure in the power sector. Yeah, I think that's what he meant to say. And he says truth, that's addressing that falsehood. The power sector was designed to fail. We failed to corporatize and commercialize before privatizing. We privatized senselessly without paying attention to context and corporate governance and regulatory regime. We sold to investors who lacked capacity, etc. Is this your stance?
I am not here to discuss Dr. Amadi and EPCO's Mr. EPCO's
I don't want you to wait.
Or really what I want to discuss here is...
Remove it.
Let's remove it.
Remove the names
Where are we? Where are we?
But look at this. Yeah. Is it true that the power sector, as we have it today, was designed to fail?
Well, it was designed with the hope that there will be good management that will provide oversight. The role of NERC is to take over this particular monster called electricity industry in Nigeria, make it work through regulatory rules and market rules and technology that will be enforced to make it work perfectly. But there are issues that come with the reform, obviously. The issue of we don't have meters were to be provided by the discos. They end up not having the money to provide meters to all customers. Also, there were issues of exchange, the funding that was available to them to be able to do so. These were all the challenges that they did not prepare for. I don't think it was designed to fail. It was designed with the certainty that things will work. No, but a lot of uncertainty came up.
The allegation also says that we gave it to those who did not have the capacity.
That is the issue here. That's a correct statement, because then if you have a technical competency among the owners, the people who got the disco at least as a franchise business, obviously, there was anticipation on their part that the losses were low and they can easily make it, lower enough so that everything will be working well. But they probably didn't do a good asset management of what the networks look like, and the governance issue was not properly put in place. And of course, like I said, in terms of making sure that they have sufficient funding and competency for especially the external expert that they brought in. Probably all that failed in the process. But what do we do? What do we do with a bad lemon? Do we throw it away? We make a lemon juice out of it. And this commission that is in place now realized all the things that has failed. First of all, since meters could not be provided, we make sure that we ask manufacturer investors to come to Nigeria, do local content, provide meters to customers, so that at least at the minimum, customer will pay for the power they use. Because most of the cries of the customer is about this crazy billing. It's about estimated billing. And that is something that the disco couldn't do by themselves. They couldn't handle that. We, working with the disco, we have now given permits where investors have come, they have signed on the dotted line that they will provide meters at a cost to the customers, whether a single-phase meter, whether it's a three-phase meter. That is going on now.
So the customers are going to pay for it?
The customers will pay for it upfront, or if they cannot even pay, there will be a payment plan. And we are also working with central bank to even give a concession to provide some funding for all the people who will be providing these meters. In other words, the meter provider, we call it MAP, meter asset providers. These are Nigerians who are going to be doing this business of providing meters. To me, that's a problem solved, big problem solved, that could have been solved 12 years ago. Now, let's go to the second thing that I think is important. Now, in the past, since there was imbalance in the market, as I said, and the tariff issues, they were not addressed properly. So we have taken time to study, look at all the parameters, the indicators that led to market liquidity, all the insolvency in the market. Now we are doing things now to make it happen. A performance improvement plan is in place, which we are asking all the discos to provide for us, how they're going to improve the quality of service, how they're going to manage the services they provide to the customers. All that is what a regulator should do. And we are engaging the disco one by one to make sure that is done. There are a lot of stranded assets, stranded power at the interface, like I said before, between the discos and the transmission providers. We have engaged the two groups, one by one-on-one, and identify what are the bottlenecks. Those bottlenecks are important because we are losing a lot of power that could be provided to customers. Having said that, we are now agreed to sign on the document, which they have agreed to do, to work together to overcome this stranded power, these bottlenecks. Again, furthermore, you look at safety issues. They were ignored over the years.
Professor, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Let's go to Lagos now and take a question from my colleague. Chamberlain?
So I'd just like to find out, I mean, 6 years after the privatization, could you tell us, because there are those who, I mean, it's common knowledge, when we have rains, sometimes, or if not most times, the power sector, the electricity is off. Today, almost the same thing. So 6 years after the privatization, could you tell us what has changed? Have we benefited from this privatization exercise, and is there a trajectory to show for it?
Am I to speak now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I quite appreciate that question. In order, over the last 6 years, what are the performance indicators that we can show that this thing is working? I would say that there isn't much that we can show for what we wanted to get from the industry. We wanted improved power supply. We wanted more generation. We wanted more transmission. We wanted to serve more customers. And when we took the job about 2 years ago, we discovered all this was at a low, very low number of customers were being metered, number of customers that were being supplied power to. We still realized a lot of crises in terms of safety challenges were in the market. We realized that investors were dwindling. So what do? So this called for a new challenge for us. We have to now begin to ask the big questions. How did we get to where we are? And where we got into is the fact that there was no good management in the governance issue was very, very important among the discos. We also realized that there were a lot of uncertainty in terms of the market of power in Nigeria, electricity in Nigeria. And of course, recognizing all this brought us to developing new opportunities through policies that were set even by the Ministry of Power, like providing eligible customer instrument that allow customers to be able to get access to power in their own neighborhood, so that it would not be like you have to wait for the big grid to work, the big gen power to get to your neighbor. So again, we begin to provide this meter asset provider, like I mentioned. Embedded generation was another instrument we put in place to allow different investors or people who want to at least participate in franchising opportunity of contributing to the asset of providing power to different customers. So again, since it didn't work, we have to start fixing it. And the fixing doesn't mean we have to fold our hand as regulator or just leave it in the hands of the distribution company to do. We engage them. We begin to ask all other options that could improve the quality of power supply in Nigeria, that could increase power supply in Nigeria, that could make power become accessible to customers. But in the villages, we begin to talk about mini grids. Those are all small incremental power, but they make a difference because it means that we can provide power just in the village now. And of course, there is a lot of expansion plan that has been taking place in the last 2, 3, 4 years under President Buhari. You know that a lot of money has been put together to keep this thing running. Now we have to ask, to what extent shall we continue to rely on subsidy from government? As you know, recently, money has just been added to make sure there's a balance between the power that is bought and the one that is sold, between the GenCos and the DISCos. And I think the effort that is in place now is to overcome the challenges that is already there, even before we come in.
Can I ask you to tell Nigerians in maybe a sentence or two, what can they look forward to in the next couple of, is it months or is it in the next 1 year, in terms of electricity? I know you're not a DISCO, but you're a regulator. From what the DISCOs are telling you, from the, will I say, the standards you're setting for the DISCOs, what should Nigerians be looking forward to in terms of the electricity supply?
Okay. Number one, I think we expect that customers should be looking forward to see incremental increase in power generation, because we're working on that with the GENCOs. All the new markets that we're introducing is going to help to make that happen too. Like I said, the eligible customer, the mini grids. They are small power production, but they are going to make a difference. Two, we're going to have meter availability to all customers. So this idea of crazy billing, estimated billing will be out of.
Do you have a duration for that?
Yes, we have it. By May 1st, we've given permits to all the DISCOs, and they sign on it, and they got their vendors who are ready on running, or hit the ground running, providing meters to customers. So I think that will be a major difference. Losses are going to be reduced as a result of this. At the interface challenges that they have, where people are saying DISCOs are rejecting power, there was infighting between the TCN and DISCO. We're overcoming that too. So Nigerians will now see more power at the DISCO end, because there will be power that will be unleashed because of our intervention.
Well,
at the same time, safety issue will be overcome, because we're taking serious sanction against any DISCO that is defaulted in terms of making sure the substations are maintained and they are safe, so that we minimize a lot of electrocution that takes place in the country so far. So I think these are important things we are doing.
Extremely important,
yeah.
And that's more than 2 sentences already. Well, Professor, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. We hope to bring you again, because I know that as long as Nigerians are not experiencing stable electricity, there definitely will be issues to talk about. We have to thank you for coming on.
And for stability of the network, if you don't mind, we are going to recommend what kind of system we have to put in place to ensure stability and reliability of the network.
Well, I hope you're holding his promises and you're holding everything that you should be looking forward to. Professor James Momoh is the chairman of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, and he's speaking to us on Sunrise Daily this morning. The program continues shortly. We're still looking at electricity, so please stay with us. Thank you for